Donald Trump is a name that has generated significant discussion in both American history and global politics. He has many statements that no one would expect from an American president. He has political perspective that has drastically changed both the Republican Party and America based on interest and agreements. He loves wealth, ostentation, and prize, and he particularly enjoys doing this in front of the camera. Being a president of a superpower like the United States is already a sign of a powerful name. However, he wants to showcase this power even more in every area. He prefers to appear strong rather than just being strong, enjoys demonstrating his power over others, and loves to get what he wants, and even more through that power. This is why he places great importance on leader diplomacy in relations with other countries. Trump has leaders he likes and dislikes, and Erdoğan is on the list of leaders that Trump likes. When Donald Trump first ran for election in 2016, almost no one believed he could win.
I had the weirdest dream last night. Remember that guy who used to host The Apprentice? I dreamed we elected him president.
The big story is that America woke up this morning and was like,
did I do that?
He had fantastic personality, saying and doing things that were unexpected from an American president. He had different persona compared to other American presidents, with a unique style when shaking hands with leaders of other countries. However, there were some leaders he could not connect with, such as Chinese President Xi and Turkish President Erdoğan. Before taking office, he was a well-known businessman who enjoyed making deals. What he loved even more was coming out on top in those deals. He was on the winning side in many struggles throughout his life. However, that was not the case in the 2020 elections. He did not believe he lost the 2020 elections and urged his supporters to march to the Senate. The January 6, 2021 Capitol riot has gone down as a dark stain in American history. However, Trump was not someone who easily gave up. During his first presidency, he believed that many, including John Bolton, had betrayed him and left his team. One of the hardest blows for Trump was when Vice President Mike Pence acknowledged the 2020 election results and attended Joe Biden's inauguration. He prepared better for his next presidency and implemented a tough policy against those he believed had betrayed him in 2020, belittling them all. Many lawsuits were filed against him leading up to the presidential election in 2024. During the election campaign, he survived an assassination attempt on July 13, 2024, with only minor injuries. This assassination attempt further increased support for Trump's campaign. He achieved a clear victory in the election in November 2024. Trump was more experienced and serious during this term than in his previous one. Trump categorizes countries that can generate revenue for America, establish regional allied relationships with America, pose regional threats to America, and threaten America's global leadership. He views many countries in the Gulf region of the Middle East as nations that will invest in America, create employment, and increase prosperity, and he was signing significant agreements with these countries. He aimed to improve relations between Israel and many countries in the Middle East through the Abraham Accords and to make Israel a central country in the Middle Eastern policy. He also wants other countries in NATO to spend money and increase their influence. At this point, Turkey, which has the second strongest military in NATO after the United States, emerged as a key player. Trump always valued relations with Turkey, which serves as a balancing element against Russia and Iran, is a transit point between three continents, plays a significant role in Europe's energy security, acts as a buffer zone to stop the influx of refugees into Europe, is a permanent customer of the American defense industry, and hosts many American bases. During his first presidential term, his close circle was heavily influenced by evangelical Christians. The crisis involving Pastor Brunson erupted between Turkey and the United States. In Izmir, American pastor Andrew Kirk Brunson, who faced a 35-year prison sentence on charges of committing crimes on behalf of terrorist organizations and espionage, was sentenced to 3 years, 1 month and 15 days in prison. However, considering the time he had already spent in jail, it was ruled that he would not serve additional time. Additionally, Brunson was released along with the lifting of his house arrest and travel ban. Following this, he returned to his home country, the United States, by presidential decree. Trump was very angry with Turkey and President Erdoğan. Influenced by the pressure from his team regarding this incident, he sent a letter filled with insults and threats to Erdoğan. He imposed numerous economic sanctions on Turkey, leading to a surge in the exchange rate and inflation in the country. Following Turkey's acquisition of the Russian-made S-400 air defense system, he decided to implement CAATSA sanctions against Turkey and remove Turkey from the F-35 program. The deterioration of the economy and the lack of expected orders in the defense industry put Erdoğan in a difficult position domestically, which reflected in the elections. Erdoğan appointed the former Minister of Treasury and Finance to address the economic issues. Although things in the economy were not going as he wished, the defense industry was thriving for Turkey. Turkey had captured 65% of the world market in unmanned aerial vehicles. During this process, Turkey achieved significant diplomatic success. It hosted peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. A peace agreement was signed in Ankara between Somalia and Ethiopia. Iraq recognized the PKK as a banned organization. In Syria, the Assad regime was overthrown, and Ahmed Shara, supported by Turkey, came to power. Donald Trump wanted the good relations with Turkey during his second term and relied on his good relationships with Erdoğan for this. He appointed Tom Barak, an American of Lebanese descent and one of the most trusted names, as ambassador to Turkey. In his first presidential term, Trump wrote a threatening letter to Erdoğan. But in his second term, he made several statements praising Erdoğan. One of these statements was made during a press conference with Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu. This is not a highly anticipated situation, as Israel holds a very important place in America's Middle East policy throughout American history. In many wars and tensions that Israel engaged in with other countries in the Middle East, the United States has been by far more the most supportive country of Israel. However, this time an Israeli Prime Minister did not make an unconditional support statement for Israel during a visit to the White House, and he expressed a desire for Israel to be reasonable in its relations with Turkey, while also making remarks praising Erdoğan alongside Netanyahu. Turkey is a country that United States President Donald Trump desires to have good relations with. The loss of hundreds of American soldiers and the expenditure of billions of dollars in the wars the United States has engaged in the Middle East were not things Trump and his team wanted. China's remarkable rise in power poses various threats to America's status as a dominant superpower, especially with its rapid advancements in technology and AI, as well as equipping its military with highly capable weapons, which seriously threatens American sovereignty. Therefore, it was necessary for the United States to shift its focus towards the Asia-Pacific region. For this reason, Trump and his team don't want further wars in the Middle East. Consequently, they rely on Turkey, a NATO ally that is increasing its military and diplomatic capabilities in the region each year, and place greater importance on their relationship with Erdoğan.